Hey, hope you're doing good today. Now, I just met up with someone and we were talking a little bit about something that is very, very common when it comes to driven individuals. In fact, when it comes to so many people nowadays in the world that we live in, and that is that you could be doing really, really fine. You might have a streak of 4, 5, 6, even like 7 or 8, 9 days, maybe even a couple of weeks, where you feel really awesome, that your sleep isn't that bad. Your focus is pretty good. And your drive, your determination, your motivation is really on point. And you don't stutter your words, you don't get much brain fog, you don't forget things just randomly. You feel really good. Then what happens is that suddenly, out of nowhere, it's like you hit a brick wall. You have no motivation. You feel like your digestion isn't on point. You feel bloated. You feel sluggish. Your skin starts feeling like it's flaring up. Your sleep is really bad. I feel like I've got something in my eye. Your sleep is really bad. And you just feel kind of low, anxious, and depressed. And this is a sign, a massive, massive sign of something going on neurologically up here in our minds, in our brain. You might be thinking, yeah, whatever, Ollie, like it doesn't really make much difference. Like, what can you tell me about the brain or anything like that? Well, within our brain, we have these things called glia cells, microglia cells, microglia cells. Now, these glia cells are the immune cells of the brain. And you've probably heard of neurons. It's the thing everyone's heard of in our brain. But these glia cells clear out dead neurons, basically clear out a lot of waste. They are immune cells in our brain. Now, the more stressed we get over time, the more these immune cells get activated and activated and activated and activated over and over again until they get switched on and overactivated. It is at this point where we have to be so on point with everything that we can get knocked off very, very quickly. We have what we call primed glia cells. Now, this looks different on a level of where they are when it comes to priming, but also where your body was, where your stress state was at that time they became primed. So, for example, someone might be stressed as a youngster and they go through their exams, and that stress is enough to switch on their primed glia cells. And these glia cells are primed for the rest of their life. Or you could be just getting on well, you're pushing your business, you're pushing everything, and you're doing really well. And then suddenly you smack your head against the car when you're getting out. And then your life seems to change. You think, what on earth is going on? Because suddenly you start to feel really sluggish. You start to feel loads of brain fog, depression, all these different things. Or it could even be that you get knocked out. I've seen it in many, many times with people that have been knocked out, that their glia cells get primed. And it could simply be that you have a busy, busy launch. You go through this stressful period. Over the last 18 months, I bet so many people's glia cells have been primed that we're going to see this happen more and more often. That you have this streak of feeling really awesome. Everything's on point. Everything seems to click. Like the pieces of the puzzle are fitting together nicely. And then all of a sudden, your streak stops. And you have this bout of brain fog. You start forgetting things. You get frustrated. And why does it always happen? Why does that cycle always happen over and over again? And why can you not predict as to when it's going to happen? Well, as I've said, these glia cells are primed if we're in this position. Now, there's no test at this time to actually see whether they're primed or not, but we can usually see within symptomology as to if they are primed. Now, there are some studies showing that it could be a case if we have a long enough fast that we could make these glia cells shrink down to be non-existent. But that hasn't really been confirmed yet. And those fasts are like 3+ days, depending on the person. So what can we actually do? Well, what happens with these glia cells when they are primed? We have to be super, super switched on and be aware of the things going on. This is where accountability comes in. Or, for example, I know myself, it helps me being accountable to someone looking in, when they can see my workload, they can see what's going on, they can see when I need to back off. And this is what happens with a lot of clients of mine. When I start working with them and we see this build up, we can see these signs. We see things like HRV, our heart rate variability, start to drop. We see sleep quality go down. We can start to see these signs. But it could be such a simple thing when we have these primed glial cells that throws us over the edge. It could be that you come home one day and your wife or your husband has a disagreement with you and you have this argument which throws you off the edge. So then you're laying in bed for 2 or 3 days, just feeling really rubbish, feeling like there's no motivation. Or it could be that there's some kind of road rage or something. It could simply be that you went to the gym and you trained too much. You overtrained. Or you had a late night because you're hitting that deadline. It could be that you had too much to drink. Now, that hangover that people usually have for that one day is lasting a whole week. It could also be a reaction to some protein within food. When we say food proteins, we don't necessarily mean protein in the macronutrient. We mean the purest form of the foods, which break down into single amino acids and single protein structures within foods, not amino acids. So this could be a protein within gluten, a protein within dairy, and it could be a protein within any specific food. And we have to look into doing a little bit of investigation in order to find out what is actually going on. And that's where we look at that, because we can't improve, well, we can improve the lifestyle, but because we can't fix these primed glial cells, we have to learn to live with them in a certain way. So being aware that they are there is a massively powerful thing. And then we look, is it a reaction to the environment around us? I've been in places where I've been reactive to mold. So getting away from that place has massively had to do it. Or is it some of the people around us? What actually is going on within our body? And that's where we look at how can we support the body with its immune system and elsewhere. So these other things, these protein reactions, these arguments and everything, our body is much more resilient in a way. And then from there, we have to look at how much capacity do we actually have in order to change? Because so many times I see driven individuals, busy professionals that have this all or nothing mentality. It's what has gotten you where you are, right? It's allowed you to have that drive to push yourself forward. But is that really going to work with you for your health? And I was speaking to this person and we said that you want to go all in, you want to go 100%, but you only have the capacity to do 10%. And I spoke about this over and over again, that if we push to do everything, if we push to do 100% and we don't have the capacity to do that 100%, we then kind of justify it subconsciously that I can't do everything, so I do nothing, and that is okay. And I want to move forward in the future. But if we can break it down and work with your capacity, yes, it may take a bit longer to get the results. We want to inevitably get your body working quickly, but it may take a little bit longer to get the results. If 10% is all you can manage right now, consistently, until we can get it to 15%, to 20%, all the way up to 100%, eventually, if we even need to do that, then that is something which we have to do. We work on the minimum amount and we push forward that way. I don't know who it is that's commented on Facebook, but it just comes up as Facebook user on Restream, unless you go, I think, underneath, and then there's a link to say like chat.restream.io, or just message who it is. But I do hope you're well as well. So what we need to do is work out on the capacity. What is the minimum we need to do that we can implement consistently, get that consistent, get that built up as a habit. Hey, Paul, hope you're doing good, man. Build that up as a habit and then work from there. And inevitably, life is going to throw us curveballs at certain points. We have our business have ups and downs. Our relationships have ups and downs. And we have to be able to manage that, just because that if we are trying to do 100% and we have one of these curveballs throw us out and we have these primed glial cells, we're going to go backwards so much quicker, and it's going to lead to much, much more frustration. So it's something to bear in mind. If you're one of these people that you push forward and you're feeling really good, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I've been smacked and I've been knocked for 6. I'm laying down, no motivation, scrolling and trolling. Then have a look at your history. Have you been knocked out? Have you been through a severe level of stress? Have you just hit your head? Has there been a massive exposure to some kind of food poisoning or something, or some disease, some bacteria or something like that? Is it a virus that you've been through? And then afterwards, you've struggled to get back to that person that you feel that you were. And that's where we look deeper into, are your glial cells primed, and how do we actually manage with it? If you do need help with that, you know exactly where I am. But I'm just giving you a bit of food for thought to say, this is why you may be going through that 6, 7, 8, 9 days of feeling awesome. And then suddenly you get knocked for 6. And you can improve this. You absolutely can improve it. You don't have to be going through that never-ending recurring cycle. Thank you for watching once again. You know where I am. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments. Send me DMs if you'd rather be private about them. A lot of people do prefer to DM rather than put them in the comments. Or go to ojhealth.com/let's talk, and let's just book in the call and have a chat through it. But have a great day. And once again,